Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome to my hobby blog. Today it is Jackie Chan's birthday, so I am doing an impromptu review. This is was not planned at all. I was at work and I happened to look at my phone at one point. Went on Instagram onto my my Instagram side of this YouTube channel, and I saw a lot of posts talking about how it was Jackie Chan's 68th birthday. So I decided, I'm going to at least watch a Jackie Chan movie tonight. And I decided to choose one that is a very beefy 88 films release. And this is the 1986 film, directed by Jackie Chan, Armour of God. I do not have the J card, so this is what it looks like. But this movie was absolutely wonderful, just like I expected. Everything Jackie Chan does is really good, in my opinion. Borderline amazing, perfect maybe, depending on what movie. But this movie is basically Indiana Jones paired with Big Trouble in Little China. I like Indiana Jones somewhat, but I love Big Trouble in Little China. So the fact that we had aspects of both of those films, but with Jackie Chan as the lead, I was very happy, and I knew I was going to love it. And of course, Jackie Chan with a vest of dynamite fighting off a satanic monk and badass woman here. I was sold when I first bought this, and I was waiting and waiting. I've been kind of going back and forth whether to begin from his first films or to just kind of go wherever. And so when I saw it was his birthday, I decided I wanted to see this movie specifically, because I believe on the back it mentions that this was definitely a Indiana Jones ripoff. Not ripoff, but reimagining, I guess. But it was not on the back, actually. It just shows the list of films. But this is what the back looks like. You see Jackie Chan in the beginning of the film. He is taking what is called the Armour of God from these tribal people. We don't really know where they are. The filming of it was actually done in Yugoslavia, and it ends up that this is his deadliest film that he's ever made. He almost died while making this film. There's a stunt in this movie because Jackie Chan is a very great stuntsman, and he was gonna jump into a tree, and he was gonna slide down the tree and just do a stunt. And ended up that it had rained the night before that they were going to reshoot the sequence, because Jackie Chan is a perfectionist, wasn't happy with what he had, and so he was like, we're going to do that shot again. I wasn't happy with it. And so they went back out there. He did it. He jumped. The branch snapped, and he fell all the way down like 20 feet and hit his head on a rock. And a bone within like a tenth of a centimeter, something insane, very close. A piece of bone almost hit and punctured his brain. And while everyone was seeing Jackie Chan, on the ground, completely passed out, his ears were just gushing blood. So they got him to the emergency room as quick as he could. And there's even a thing at the ending saying, in memoriam, Jackie Chan, because he was so close to death. But that's just the beginning of the movie. But the story of this film, basically, is that Jackie Chan was a rock star in a rock band. And this was filmed in 1986, so right in the middle of that amazing 80s pop era, where we have a lot of glam, we have really great ballads, great hair, all of that. And he's in this band with his best friend and his best friend's girlfriend, who he also loves. And this woman that he's in love with is played by the amazing, amazing Rosamund Kwan, who, if you don't remember, I discussed. I discussed her recently in a review when I was ranking the films of Once Upon a Time in China. She is 13th Aunt is her character's name in that series, and I was so happy to see her in this movie. I assumed that she had been in a Jackie Chan film at some point, but it was really nice to see her in this film. She was wonderful in the scenes she was in. She wasn't in it much. Is really my only complaint about that, but it's such a tiny complaint because Jackie Chan left the band and became a treasure hunter, as one does. And so he's traveling all over the world, just stealing religious artifacts from tribes, which very problematic, not the best. That's a story kind of plot line that I'm happy isn't done as much nowadays because it is very problematic in my opinion. But Jackie Chan is taking what is called the Armour of God from this, I'm going to say, Yugoslavian tribe because everybody wants it. It has a really deep, rich history because thousands of years ago, one of the tribesmen put on this armor, and the religion that these people practiced called themselves the religion of good. And there was a different religion, which isn't really specified. They called them the religion of evil. And so these two opposing forces, basically. And so he donned on this armor and had this sword that he used to go into battle and defeat, the evil people. And so Jackie Chan is slowly accumulating these different pieces of armor, getting the helmet, the sword. In the opening, he gets the sword, which you can actually see right there, up and down right here. I'm trying to do it off camera, but so he finds the sword, he puts it up into auction because screw cultural immersion, but he sells it, makes a lot of money, and finds out that there's a cult hunting down this armor. And so Rosamund Kwan, who has a boyfriend that is also Jackie Chan's best friend, she gets kidnapped. And she's being held captive. And we don't really hear from her for basically the rest of the movie until the end when they go in to rescue her. And so as they are going throughout the story, they are accumulating all the pieces, trying to race against time against this cult. And we get a lot of amazing action sequences, as you always get in a Jackie Chan film. I love Jackie Chan. It is a crime to me that he is not appreciated more. And he's already pretty appreciated a lot. And I just really enjoyed this movie a lot. This movie had a lot of great stunts outside of the tree one. We had a really great motorcycle jump. We had a great sequence where a car was being flipped over and over again on a staircase in a busy city while people are running around. And the camera is right there at the crash as it's flipping over on the staircase. And it was really scary to watch. But so many great sequences. I love the ending fights in this movie, where we get Jackie Chan fighting off this group of badass women who are obviously played by men when they're actually doing the really intense punching and kicking by Jackie Chan. And during the sequence, well, before that part, when he fights the woman, he is rescuing Rosamund Kwan. And she is under this weird hypnosis spell through the use of heroin, because heroin is kind of the main drug that this cult is using to recruit new people to this religion. And so they rescue her, and they're going through the caves, and they're getting into all sorts of trouble with many different cult members. And there's a great scene where they're in kind of like a kitchen area, little gathering hall, I guess, kind of like the Vikings, where you have the really long table in the middle of the room. You have, all the food and the plates and the utensils all set up. And when I saw that, I was like, oh man, we're going to get a huge fucking scene where Jackie Chan is just going to take every item ever and use it for the action. And he did, because that's what Jackie Chan does. He, from what I know of his filmmaking, is that he tells the set designers, like, hey, fill the room with objects. Just any objects you can find. Make it natural, of course, but just have thousands of items in the room. Have many breakable furniture in the room. And then the day before he shoots the action sequence, he just goes into the room and just kind of sits there and just thinks and starts choreographing all the action. That's how he works. I think it's a lovely system. Really cool. But this entire movie has amazing action. I really like the Big Trouble in Little China aspects of this movie, because the first half is definitely Indiana Jones, even down to the shot compositions and all the setups. But the second half is very Big Trouble in Little China, when Kurt Russell and the rest of the crew are in the layer of Lo Pan, I believe is the villain's name. The immortal, I guess, sorcerer. And this movie is exactly the same way. We have the somewhat immortal figure of this cult, and he wants to use the armor to recruit people, and they're gonna basically take over the world. It's very, very Big Trouble in Little China, and I love that movie a lot. So I was really happy to see that done differently and in a Jackie Chan sort of way, where we just get, dozens of people fighting Jackie Chan, and he's constantly lighting dynamite and throwing it at people and it exploding on camera. So it's really dangerous stunts in this movie. But that is basically the movie. I want to talk now about the actual release. This is an 88 Films release. They do really great work. I'm kind of showing it off here. It's just like a Arrow Video limited edition where you get the poster. I don't know if this is double-sided. I don't think so. It is double-sided. But you get the entire front of this. Basically the same exact artwork. You get a really hefty essay book in this. And this is probably a novel's length of essays here. Almost 100 pages of essays in this. Talking all about Jackie Chan's career. Talking about the filming of this movie. Talking about the Jackie Chan fan club, which I had no idea about. Basically, the Jackie Chan fan club was this club back in the late 80s, kind of to mid-90s, where this guy in, I believe, New York City, maybe somewhere in California, he kind of noticed that there was a huge hole in the VHS era, where there were no martial arts films from China coming in. All the VHS stores, they had Bruce Lee, and they had the John Woo films, because John Woo was becoming a big major director at this time. And he was kind of like, okay, those movies are great, but where's the Jackie Chan movies? Where's the Sammo Hung films, the Yuan Bao, all these different movies? And so he just started a fan club, started handwriting letters to people, to sign up for newsletters, and he was slowly kind of acquiring 35 millimeter prints of these movies. And there's an interview with him in this essay book kind of talking about what made him want to do this, how they kept the club going for all the different years that they had. And he talks about how he went down to Chinatown at one point because he was just so desperate to find just any martial arts films or Shaw Brothers films or Golden Harvest or Golden Way, which is the subsidiary of Golden Harvest, which Golden Harvest had actually done the Once Upon a Time in China collection, or not collection, but series. And Golden Harvest paired up with Jackie Chan, and Jackie Chan ran Golden Way, which was kind of the Jackie Chan, I guess, distributor of all his films. And so he went to Chinatown, was asking around to all the different video stores, and found that they didn't have it either. They mostly had TV shows and actual serious films, like dramas and such, not martial arts, because they looked down on it or something. And so he just started buying up prints of films. And they talked about the first showing of this movie and how it just kind of overnight became such a sensation, because Jackie Chan was well known from the 70s because of his run with the Shaw Brothers, doing Drunken Master, doing Snake in the Eagle's Shadow, doing Enter the Dragon, Part 2, the Bruce Lee sequel, or the sequel to the Bruce Lee film. But this essay just had so much. I mean, I ended up reading it for about 30 minutes, and I still wasn't done. There were still essays that I had to read that were all about the video game adaptations of Jackie Chan films, from the SNES, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, all the way till today. And they also have a couple parts in the essays where they interview, or they put in like a, hey, just so you know, where they put in, the the new Marvel movie, and Legend of the Rings, or whatever it's called. I haven't really paid attention to Marvel lately, really only just Spider-Man, which I talked about on stream, actually. But, and also, I did a review of, back when that came out in, I guess, December, maybe. But, no, it was in January, because I moved out. But that's aside from the point. But they have a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. They reference the essay about the Category 3 films that 88 Films had written for the Robotrix release, which I talked about, actually, also. I was kind of surprised by how referential this was to other 88 Films releases, because they kind of just... 88 Films has most of Jackie Chan's films under the label. And as you saw in my haul video recently, I bought a lot of them. I still had about 10 to 15 I had to get. And they're still being announced. There's still more Jackie Chan movies to get. But, this release is just so beefy and amazing. This is a film school in a box, in my opinion. It goes into the history of Jackie Chan films, talks about... There's a short little section of his biography where they go into his childhood when he went to Australia and lived with his parents for a while after being a stuntman on a Bruce Lee film. I believe, excuse me, hiccups. I'm not sure which Bruce Lee film it was. Maybe it was Fist of Fury. Yes, it was Fist of Fury, because he was the main star of Fist of Fury 2, which is what I was referencing earlier. But he went back to Australia, lived there, wasn't really happy. And then one day he got a deal with the director that also did Drunken Master, Snake and the Eagle Shadow, and he went on to do those films. And he ended up doing many different films with Shaw Brothers and Golden Harvest because of his stunt work on Fist of Fury, and because he was a fresh new take on Chinese martial arts. Because Bruce Lee was very somber. I wouldn't say unemotional, but he wasn't goofy. He wasn't, exaggerated in his acting. And Jackie Chan definitely was. I mean, I don't think you would ever see Bruce Lee doing that. Maybe in his later years if he had survived the deadly tragedy. But I really love this release. I'm not even done with it. There's 2 cuts of the film in this release. The first one, which is what I saw, is the Hong Kong cut, which is just the original theatrical cut. And then the other cut of the film is the international one, which I don't really know what the difference is. I noticed in the subtitles, when the ending credits was going on, that the subtitles was playing for a song where the singer was singing, but there was no singing on the audio side. So I wondered if in the international cut that maybe the song is different because of rights issues or something. I'm unsure. But this was a really fun movie to watch. Really fun to kind of pick out the different references to earlier 80s films, such as Indiana Jones and Big Trouble in Little China. A little bit of... I was trying to think. I had one in my mind. But kind of the 80s action buddy cop genre. A little bit of dead heat, I guess. There's some great quipping between Jackie Chan and his compatriot, who is his best friend. But they both love Rosamund Kwan's character. Yeah, this movie is really great. I was really kind of hoping I would look down and see that I've been talking for 30 minutes, but there's really not as much to talk about in regards to Jackie Chan films because most of it's just really great action with a really engaging story in between those action sequences. So I think that is all for today. Happy birthday, Jackie Chan. 68 years old. My God. Almost 70. He's not really doing movies anymore. He was in a recent film called The Foreigner, which they do actually talk about that in the essay, talking about kind of what he's been up to lately. And he talks about more how he's using his company that he made of Jackie Chan Stuntmen, something like that he made back in the 70s. He is working with the 8th generation of action stars and stuntmen because he wanted to, I guess, have reign, over the best stuntmen in China. And he definitely has. Many of them have gone on to be in very large Hollywood films, mostly Shang-Chi. Gosh, I'm trying to remember that Marvel movie's name. But I keep wanting to say Shang Tsung, but that's Mortal Kombat. That's one of the characters. I guess the final boss of Mortal Kombat 1. But they talk about how he was in that movie and the logo was a little different than what was usually being shown because he has his own company that does, training stuntmen, all that. I mentioned that. But talk about how his logo from the late 70s all the way till today just slowly morphed. And they had a little graphic in the essay kind of showing how it began, and they showed every year and how it changed. So that was interesting. I didn't really read too deeply into that because I'm not a iconography kind of guy, but it was still fascinating to kind of look at it because I've seen all the logos, here and there, but I never would have guessed all the really subtle differences, especially and the iconography, which is, or I guess the typography, the lettering, the Chinese characters that were used in the logo. So, but I'm not an expert in that. I didn't read too deeply into it, as I said. But yeah, definitely check this one out. I'm unsure if this release is out of print now. I got this pretty recently from Orbit DVD. Give them all your money. I love Orbit DVD so much. They always have a really great selection, and they're always importing a lot of great films. So definitely check out Jackie Chan's Armour of God. Thank you all so much for watching, and please wish Jackie Chan a happy birthday. It is April 7th. That's his birthday. So you got about 3 hours Eastern Standard Time to wish him happy birthday. So thank you all again for watching.